Can people get on then? If Greg couldn't get on, I wondered.
I'm gonna go check that link that I don't know which one he's talking about, whether he's talking about the one on the on our page or on the Front City page that has it scrolling. So I'll have to ask him.
Right. Okay.
Is William Schneider in on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I would assume that William was able to get on through the city's site.
Okay.
Either that or he's on the mailing list. He may be on the mailing list for the email list. So I'm gonna mute him so maybe he can answer. Let me send him a message actually.
Ready to go, Mike?
Yeah, I'm ready, Bill.
All right. I'll call the Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, and Development Committee to order. One agenda item, ordinance 20-38, rezoning the area described herein from general business A to general business B. Building Commissioner is in receipt of an email and a date of the Planning Design Commission meeting to withdraw the application for rezoning. Our clerk, Liz Westbrooks, has a letter from the Planning Design Commission chairperson stating the same. Unless there's any comments, I move at this time that ordinance 20-38 be removed from further consideration of the Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, and Development Committee.
Call and roll on the motion, Bill?
Yeah. That was my motion. Brian?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Maureen?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Greg? Is he on, Liz?
No, he's not on that I see.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. That completes my meeting.
Okay, then the Finance Committee will start at 6:35 p.m. Few things to talk about. The first would be Ordinance 2067, which is to replace doors and implement measures to reduce the exposure to the spread of COVID-19. The amount on the contract increased by $2,850 for a new total of $110,456. This issue has been discussed with Board of Controls, and it was approved by Board of Controls on November 23rd, 2020. It's been requested that this be put up for emergency passage without 3 reads tonight. Does anyone have any questions about this at all? I know Mary Kay kind of went through it all when in the Board of Control meeting, but I don't know if you did not see those notes, you might not know about it.
Yeah, if Mary Kay would just give a quick overview, it'd be great.
Absolutely. So the city looked at early on in the CARES Act funding for opportunities to make improvements for social distancing and for foot traffic to allow better circulation. And for an eye to the future, when we would open up facilities, but still have a transition time where we would still want people to wear masks. So as a result of looking into those needs, we developed, with the aid of a technical advisor from Construction Resources, Inc., we developed a specification for a door system at City Hall where we have a camera access. It's not for security, but we can actually speak to a visitor, ask them to place a mask on before we open a door, and to provide fobs for all of city council, boards, commissions, and employees. Another project in this project is a door at the Gemini pool. We wanted to offer an ease of exit out of the indoor leisure pool so that people, at that time, the locker rooms were closed, but there's a narrow hallway. We wanted to give people an option to leave the indoor pool. Some of the folks there are with Cleveland Clinic under therapy. And so we are replacing a door at the indoor natatorium. In addition, we're putting new hardware on doors on Bain Cabin that allow them to be propped open so that better circulation to the outdoor covered patio can be made. And that's probably a pretty good synopsis of the project.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Director.
You're welcome.
Director Costello, if I may, or I guess Mayor Cooney, whoever wants to answer this. So given that we're using CARES Act money for this level of improvement, I guess I understand the issue with the Gemini Center pool, but I'm struggling because when we first saw this legislation, the first thing that popped into my head was touch-free doors, because we're talking about using this for COVID-oriented resources, right? So I assumed we were going to be putting the little foot steppers on that you can pull the door open with your foot, or perhaps, you know, some other modification to the door that is related to reducing the spread of
Absolutely.
viruses. And I guess my question is, how does a camera do that outside of just asking somebody to put on a mask?
Well, that's a good point, and it's a point that I didn't include in my synopsis. The door at City Hall will be a handicap accessible door that will have a pad that you can hit with your elbow so that the door can open automatically. You won't have to put your hand on a handle. The push operation door at the Gemini's Center, it was not functional. So you couldn't use it to open and close the door. So we looked into just replacing that part of the hardware of the door, and it was over $10,000 at that point. It just didn't seem feasible to put that kind of money into a door that's 12 years old, that's been in a natatorium. And so all of these doors have at least a potential for touchless egress. And City Hall will be completely touchless and handicapped accessible. So it's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
So there are no step and pull doors. There's none of the things that we've seen implemented in other places for ingress and egress to reduce, because what I'm reading is specifically in this ordinance, to reduce exposure to and the spread of COVID-19 and other communicable illnesses. And again,
Right.
I'm on with the door at the natatorium. I'm struggling to see how these systems you've described accomplish that goal in the other location. So I'm just curious if I'm missing it.
At the Gemini, it was for circulation to allow an egress out of the building that you wouldn't have to cross paths with people coming into the natatorium or into the facility itself. And since it wasn't really operational at all, we looked into replacing the hardware as I described. So for the Gemini, it's not as touchless as the City Hall doors, and the Bain cabin doors aren't as touchless. Bain cabin and the Gemini are more of a circulation to allow people at Bain cabin to spread out and away from each other, and at the Gemini to exit the facility with the least amount of cross-contamination or exposure.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
And just to clarify, these are not CARES Act funds. These funds will be shifted from the CARES Act to the Permanent Improvement Fund. And the funds that were originally appropriated for the doors will be used for fire and police salaries reimbursements.
So that is the reason why they're on the agenda tonight, is to change the account in which these funds are being paid from.
That's the next ordinance, 20.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so for ordinance 2067, any more questions? Then I'd like to make a motion for this to be up for emergency passage without 3 reads tonight. Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
I'm gonna vote yes. And is Greg not on?
No, he's not. He's literally calling me right now. So I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Then the next ordinance is ordinance 2068, adjusting funds that are adjusting the CARES Act funds. So they now come, so the projects that we were just discussing would now come from Fund 260, the permanent improvement. This is kind of what the mayor had just touched upon. Anyone have any questions at all? Then I'd like to make a motion for this to be up for emergency passage without 3 reads tonight. Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
I'm going to vote yes. And then ordinance 2051, we left in committee waiting for the amendment from Director Single, which everyone should have received in their emails.
I'm sorry, Bridget, is that 2051 or 2057?
51, the supplemental appropriations.
Okay.
He sent it out on Friday.
I remember seeing that. I just don't remember it being 2051. So
Yeah.
just my mistake.
There's 5 amendments, Sarah. 6 amendments.
6.
I saw the information from Greg. I wasn't aware of the number. That's my mistake.
You're all set with all those, Bridget?
I am, yes. Do I make a motion then that we vote on it tonight, or do I make a motion to amend during our meeting? Because if we're going to approve them now,
We'll make the motion to amend.
Okay.
When we pass them this evening.
okay. So do I have to vote on anything now to take it out of committee and put it on the floor for voting?
It's already on tonight's agenda.
Oh, okay. All right then.
Yeah, we're good.
Then the finance committee concludes at 6:46 p.m.
Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you.
How are we doing with Greg, Liz?
He was in, he said he's exiting again because now he doesn't have audio. So he's gonna try again. We got him in, but he doesn't have audio, he said.
All right.
So he's trying again.
Okay, everyone has their boards and commissions reports for this evening.
Yes.
Everyone's all good. And everyone's good with all the legislation this evening. And the amendments. Sarah, I believe you have an amendment to ordinance 2045.
2045, I believe you are correct.
You're all set with that? Make that motion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, let's see. Roundtable. Brian, do you have anything for roundtable?
No, not tonight.
Okay. Bill?
Nothing, Mike.
Maureen?
I just wanted to ask, I know that a while ago we were discussing the whole issue with people's garbage cans, and we kind of haven't resolved it all yet. So I had a resident call and complain because their neighbor's garbage can is on the side of the house, it's overflowing with garbage. So are we still just basically calling the service department and having them act on it just to send a little letter, or how are we handling that?
Do we
I
ever
remember
remove the issue from committee?
No,
Okay, so,
that's what we did not. So it was kind of just hanging out there. So I wasn't sure what to do.
well, the residents should most certainly call the service department about it.
Okay. And then, so we'll just continue with that. I told them that council was discussing it, but I couldn't recall where we had left it. So, and then secondly, I had a resident call over the weekend. Maybe Mary Kay could enlighten me a little. They live on 220, and they had to have, because of the work being done, they had a gas line and a meter that had to be installed. And in the process of it on Saturday, they had the smell of gas was in their home. Someone said they fixed it, and then hours later, it was still there. So they had to come back and fix it again, and said somebody else did it wrong. These people, they emailed me, and in the process, I didn't see it till Sunday, that they think it's fixed, but they didn't know, is this something, and I'd like to know if on the weekend this is going on, should they be contacting Dominion? Should they be contacting the Fairview Service Department, calling the fire department, where this gas leak was in their home, and it was a result of the work being done on 220.
Right.
How should I direct them?
So that call was
Pardon?
from Matt Daler, if I recall his name correctly. We spoke
It
with him
was,
today.
yes, it was.
Mhm. Right, and he is a little
Okay.
background. He had a new service line as part of the 220 construction, a new service line to his home. There were a number of issues. There was a leak at the meter, and there was a subsequent leak from the old line. So the work on Friday connected a new service into his home, and that leak was at the meter and causing a leak technically inside the home. So there was one crew that had to take care of that. A secondary leak that they could smell outside was from the old main not having all the natural gas removed from it. So that's going to be taken care of. The old service connection was capped to that line. So eventually Dominion did come and fix the leak at the meter. They capped the line. There's still a little odor of gas because that old line is so leaky, and that's why they are replacing it. But always call Dominion. This resident did the right thing. After the work was done, they left their home for a while and came back and could smell gas inside the house. Definitely
Right.
a call to Dominion, a call to our fire department. is in order. If they want to have ventilation, a fan can be
Okay.
brought. Our fire department can help in that regard. So that's always,
Okay. Was
always
this,
great advice.
I was just, obviously the 220 project is still going on. I was just concerned if this was a very unique situation, or should I, if there's going to be more people who might have situations such as this arise, I want to be prepared to tell them, call Dominion and call the fire department if they're concerned about a leak. Is that correct?
That is correct. This part of this project on the west side of 220 involves new service lines from a new main to the house. And so in order to have that new service line operational, Dominion has to turn off the gas, reconnect this new service line, and then relight all the pilot lights. So it's pretty involved. Normally, before that crew would leave, after they test everything to make sure everything's functioning well, normally they would catch any anomalies. So it's very rare that the crew finishing this work would leave before testing everything. So, that's something I'll be reporting to Dominion, because I really don't think that crew should have left.
Okay,
Once that
that's,
service was
yeah,
reconnected.
that's what I was going
Yeah.
to follow up asking that, if you'd make sure that in the future, if they have to do this, they do pay a little more attention so that you're not displaced from your home for hours.
Yes,
Okay, thank you,
I
Mary Kay.
believe you're welcome. There were some other complaints too that have been reported. I just want to assure you that if there's any issues, please let me know so that I can advocate for our residents. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Sarah, do you have anything?
I do not this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridget?
Nothing, thank you.
Greg, are you here?
Yeah, is this just roundtable caucus?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination. We're running short on time here. So yeah, it's roundtable caucus.
Okay, then no, I don't have anything.
Let's see. So next weekend is the holiday weekend. Want to ask council what their pleasure is. If we want to meet next Monday, we have two pieces of legislation being introduced this evening. The street income tax renewal, two pieces of legislation that are connected to that. So does council want to meet next Monday, or if not, we're going to have another special committee meeting on the 4th to address these two pieces of legislation. What's your pleasure,
Are
council?
those two pieces kind of just standard operating procedure type? Or is it?
Well, they need to be. They're on a timetable, so they need to be. I believe they need to be passed on the 4th. Is that right, Mayor or Director Costello?
They would be passed on the 18th.
I'm sorry, Mayor, you broke up.
Okay. On the 18th.
On the
January
8th.
18th? Okay.
Okay.
Council
Yeah,
President, my personal belief is, given that the Christmas holiday falls on Friday, I know that there's a large amount of work involved in getting the agendas out and getting all the legislation pulled together. And I, out of respect for Clerk Westbrooks, I would be comfortable with having a special meeting before the 4th and allowing her to enjoy her holiday, as opposed to asking her to put out this information in a rush last minute. But that's my opinion.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Yeah, the vote.
I'd go along with that too.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll plan on. Is everyone good with that?
Yes.
if I can make a comment, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm guessing that, I think I heard that you guys want to try, Mayor Cooney, respectfully, you guys want to pass this by January 18th. So basically a second read, because it would be too late to do a third read for the filing with the Board of Elections. Is that the reasoning for that? because it's due, the filing deadline is February 3rd for the primary. Is that the reason, or?
Right, so the third would, this is the first, the fourth is the second, the 18th would be the third.
Okay, gotcha. So we would still be, okay. Okay, so I
Yeah,
that was my only
schedule.
concern was that if you guys are fine with that, I'm fine with it.
All right, so Mayor, these two pieces could go for 3 readings? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, we had
The first one.
envisioned 3 reads,
Okay, fine.
but we just, yes, I don't think it was in committee. That was why we wanted to have the committee meeting on the 4th.
Okay.
Greg, is that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
People hear
also
me?
we have on, you're breaking up, Mayor.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we also have the ordinance 2061 that is on second tonight and is being returned to committee. We would ask council if that could be approved on January 4th, so that we can keep with our time schedule to sell those notes.
I'm sorry, I overlooked that, Greg. Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we're good with the special committee meeting prior to the council meeting on the 4th.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
great. Liz, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, well, we'll start our the regular council meeting in a minute.
Hey, Liz,
Uh-huh.
on the script that you sent out,
Uh-huh.
ordinance 2062, the AFSCME contract,
Okay.
under it, you have it's requested by Senior Life, and you have the Senior Life resolution underneath it.
Sorry.
No, I just,
Oh.
you'll read it. and then-
Except for my reading. Thank you. I appreciate that. I tried to send a text or chat message to both William Schneider and Chris Garrett, who are on, to try and find out what link they use to get in, to try and figure out if there's a problem link somewhere. Did you guys all use the email, the one I sent in the email?
Yeah, with the script, that's what I used.
Okay.
I
The email
used the one
today.
from last Friday.
Okay, use the one Friday. So I'm not sure what the problem is.
Hey, Liz,
Uh-huh.
Bill Schneider.
Uh-huh.
Do you want me to email you the, I took the Zoom meeting link directly from the Fairview Park Facebook page.
Okay. I have it. There's a couple of different places it appears, so I'm trying to just narrow down which one is the problem child here. And it's not, okay, not YouTube, okay, I didn't do that one from the, I'm sorry, I'm seeing another message come in. Chris got hers from the website, so it's not that one. It's not the Facebook one. It's not the one I sent in the email. I'm not really sure what the problem was.
So I think Chris got in the link from the city website didn't work for her. She had to type in the meeting ID and the password to get in. I was going directly off of the city website. The device that I use, I don't have my city email on, and that's why I always go directly from the city website. And so that's when it was saying invalid meeting. And then I went to the links that were forwarded.
Okay. Chris just actually sent me a message back. She did say the website, so that's.
Okay. Yeah, I just talked to her. She said it's she had to type in the meeting ID and the password. But the link, like just normally, like if you just like click it, it opens it up and you don't have to do anything.
Okay.
For whatever reason, this one she had to enter in the meeting ID and the password to get in.
Okay.
All right, everybody. The regular meeting of the City of Fairview Park Council for Monday, December 21st, 2020 is now called to order. We'll have a a moment of silent reflection. Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Simmerly.
Here.
Mr. Minek.
Here.
Mrs. Adler.
Here.
Mr. Kilbane.
Here.
Mrs. Waring.
Here.
Mrs. King.
Here.
Mr. Berger, I'm sorry.
Here.
Okay, we'll have this evening's committee reports, starting with Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, Development. Councilman Minek.
Thank you, Council President. The Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, Development Committee met on Monday, December 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to discuss Resolution 2020 extending temporary outdoor patio dining areas. Participating in the discussion were members of the council, Mayor Cooney, and Public Service Development Director Costello. The present resolution, which was passed on June 1st, 2020, expires on December 31st, 2020. A question was asked regarding the expiration date of 2022 in the new resolution. Mayor Cooney stated, the Ohio legislators passed a law allowing the Ohio Division of Liquor Control to authorize the outdoor expansion of liquor permit premises. The extension period was initially December 31st, 2020, and now it is December 31st, 2022. Due to our present resolution expiring on December 31st, 2020, a motion that Resolution 2020 be passed on second reading at the council meeting on December 21st, 2020 was approved 7-0. Mayor Cooney stated the administration will present a letter in support of passage of second reading. This resolution will allow our businesses to continue their outdoor dining areas until such statewide restrictions are lifted or until December 31st, 2022. The Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, Development Committee met again this evening, December 31st, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. to discuss Ordinance 2038, the rezoning of permanent parcel number 32129-027 from General Business A, GBA to General Business B, GBB. Building Commissioner Maynard received an email from council representing the client, Traditional Brand Development Partners, LLC, that they have decided to withdraw their application for rezoning of the parcel and have decided to no longer pursue this proposed development in the city of Fairview Park. Motion to remove this legislation from further consideration of the Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, Development Committee was approved 6-0. The motion to remove will be made during miscellaneous business and reports from council. This completes my report.
Thank you, Councilman Minek. The committee report for local government and community services, Councilwoman Waring.
Thank you, Council President. The Local Government and Community Services Committee met on Monday, December 14th via teleconference beginning at 7:54 p.m. In attendance were members of council, Mayor Cooney, Directors Singal and Costello. The committee discussed Ordinance 2050, which sets 2021 rates for the Gemini Center. Council discussed the trigger points for raising fees in the future, given the debt service on the Gemini Center. Council discussed that leaving the rates as is for 2021 is both a goodwill gesture and also allows Director Kemp time to better understand the center and its value relative to other similar centers in the community. Per the Finance Director, the city is looking at refinancing the bonds associated with the Gemini Center. The city currently owes approximately $17.2 million on this center. A motion to place Ordinance 2050 on third reading and final passage passed by a vote of 7-0. The committee also discussed Ordinance 2045, which updates the city's codified ordinances. Council Clerk Westbrooks confirmed that she received a request for 6 copies of the codified ordinances, which is a decrease from previous years. A lot of departments are now using digital copies of the codified ordinances. A motion was made to change the date included in Section 1 to 12/31/2020. A motion to place this ordinance on third reading and final passage passed by a vote of 6-0. Council further discussed Resolution 2017, which creates a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force in the city. Council further discussed the application process and tentatively set a date of January 31st, 2021 at 4 p.m. It was decided that applications can be mailed or emailed to Council Clerk Westbrooks. Interviews are expected to be conducted beginning in February 2021, and the coalition is expected to begin work in spring 2021. There was discussion about whether the interviews would need to be conducted in public or in private, and that question will be posed to the law director, who was not present for the meeting. Council briefly discussed how to advertise and promote the coalition to encourage applications and the process for which the coalition members would set their meeting dates. A motion to return this resolution to committee passed by a vote of 6-0. Local government and community services ended at 8:34 p.m. Thank you, Council President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Waring. You will now the finance report, Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee met via video conferencing on Monday, December 14th, 2020 at 7:10 p.m. In attendance were members of Council, Mayor Cooney, Director Costello, Director Single, and members of the community. Ordinance 2051, the 2020 supplemental appropriations. Director Single is working on an amendment for this ordinance and informing the Council that it will be changed. There will be a change in Fund 709 and 235. A motion was made for this ordinance to remain in committee, and it passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2052, the 2021 temporary appropriations. This ordinance was discussed in a prior committee meeting and remained in committee to ensure all questions were answered. A motion was made to move this ordinance to third read and final passage, and it passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2057, authorizing finance director to transfer funds. Director Single informed Council that the state auditor requested that this ordinance be created, and Director Single and administration is asking it to be passed on emergency read. A motion was made to pass this on second read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2058, authorizing contract with James Zupka CPA for audit services for fiscal year 2020 through 2024, and Ordinance 2059, authorizing contract with James Zupka CPA and GAAP for preparation for CAFR preparation for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. Director Single explained how the Auditor of State put out for bid and rated all of the CPAs that the city could choose from to do this job. After reviewing their scorings and the city's scorings, Mr. Zupa was chosen. He has worked with our city in the past, and he's familiar with our city and works well with all of the city staff. A motion was made to place ordinance 2058 on second and subsequent third read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. A motion was made to place ordinance 2059 on second and subsequent third read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2060, authorizing agreement with Software Solutions, Inc. for Finance Department. Software Solutions, Inc. has been used in the past, and this ordinance is to continue that relationship. A motion was made to place ordinance 2060 on second and subsequent third read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2061, issuance and sale of bond notes for the Gemini roof replacement projects. Director Single and Fairview Park's financial advisor explained the need for this ordinance. They discussed how the markets post-elections are changing, and this is the best option. The notes currently mature in February of 2021, so this ordinance needs to be introduced so that it can be passed in time before the note matures. A motion was placed on second read and remain in committee, and that was passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2062, AFS CME contract for 2020 through 2022, and Ordinance 2063, the police contracts 2020 through 2022. Mayor Cooney discussed that due to COVID-19, the negotiations for both these contracts were paused, and that is the reason they are before council now at the end of the year. A request has been made that both the contracts be passed on emergency so that the retroactive checks can be processed. A commitment was asked of the administration that the checks be processed before the end of the year, and Mayor Cooney confirmed that that is in fact the final plan. The major changes of both contracts were outlined, and wage increases was the biggest change in both the contracts. Another change in the AFS-CME contract includes union language such as dues and revoking membership, and an agreement to post jobs for 14 days. A question was asked if the police contract went into fact-finding mission, and that was requested, but it was settled before the fact-finding hearing was actually scheduled. A motion was made to place ordinance 2062 on passage after second read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. A motion was then made to place ordinance 2063 on passage on second read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2064, the salary structure on wage ordinances for non-union employees. There were no questions about the updated salary structure laid out in this ordinance, so the motion was made to place this ordinance up for passage on second read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Resolution 2021, the 2021 Area Agency on Aging contract. This is a resolution to enter into a contract with the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging and to accept grant funds. The funding is used for transportation, nutrition, and support services, and some supplemental programs. This is a contract that we enter into every year. A motion was made to place this on second and subsequent third reading, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. The Finance Committee concluded at 7:54 p.m., and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman King. Okay, we will now begin our legislative agenda for this evening with legislation for first reading. Councilwoman King, if you're ready.
Thank you, Council President. I have one ordinance and one resolution I'd like to put up tonight for first reading.
Okay, would the clerk please assign numbers and read the titles?
Ordinance 2066, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance amending section 173.0501 of chapter 173 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fairview Park entitled Income Tax in order to renew the 0.25% portion of the current income tax rate of 2% dedicated to the resurfacing and rehabilitation of the city streets commencing January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2029, on which date the tax rate would revert back to 1.75% and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2022, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. A resolution submitting to the electorate at the primary election to be held May 4th, 2021, the question of approving the passage of an ordinance to amend section 173.0501 of chapter 173 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fairview Park entitled Income Tax in order to renew the 0.25% portion of the current income tax rate of 2% dedicated to the resurfacing and rehabilitation of the city streets commencing January 1st, 2022 until December 31st, 2029, on which date the tax rate will revert back to 1.75% and declaring an emergency.
All right, thank you. Ordinance 2066 and Resolution 2022 are both placed on first reading and assigned to the Finance Committee. Okay, we'll now have legislation for second reading. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I have 4 ordinances and 1 resolution up for second reading tonight.
Will the clerk please read the titles?
Ordinance 2058, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with James G. Zupka, CPA Incorporated, to audit the basic financial statements of the city of Fairview Park for fiscal years 2020 through 2024 and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2059, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with James G. Zupka, CPA Incorporated, for generally accepted accounting principles, conversion, and comprehensive annual financial report preparation professional services for fiscal years 2020 and 2021 and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2060, requested by Finance Director Greg Single, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for support services with Software Solutions Incorporated and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2061, requested by Mayor Patrick Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not to exceed $950,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of constructing, reconstructing, repairing, and equipping the roof of the city's recreation complex and improvements appurtenant thereto, and related building and site improvements, and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2021, requested by Senior Life Interim Director Laura Brondos, sponsored by Councilwoman King, co-sponsored by Councilman Minek. A resolution approving the mayor entering into a contract with the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging to accept grant funds from said agency for the city's programs under the Title III of the Older Americans Act of 1965, which provides funding for transportation, nutrition, and support services, and partial funding for supplemental programs thereunder for 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ordinances 2058, 59, 60, and Resolution 2021 are all placed on second and subsequent third reading. Ordinance 2061 is placed on second reading and returned to the Finance Committee. It is now time for audience input on legislation that is up for passage this evening. Is there anyone on this Zoom call that has any questions on legislation up for passage this evening, or has Clerk Westbrooks received any comments or questions via email?
No, not for legislation up for passage, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we will have legislation on passage without three readings. Councilman Minek.
Thank you, Council President. I have a resolution for emergency passage.
Clerk, please read the title.
Resolution 2020, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Council President Kilbane and Councilman Minek, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Simmerly, Adler, Waring, King, and Berger. A resolution extending the establishment of temporary outdoor patio dining areas and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Minek.
Thank you, Council President. I move the charter provision in Rule 49 requiring the resolution be read at 3/7 readings be suspended and that be placed before council for emergency passage.
So moved. We have a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek.
Yes.
Mrs. Adler.
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane.
Yes.
Mrs. Waring.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
The motion carries. Prior to call for passage of Resolution 2020, is there any further discussion?
Council President.
Councilman Minek.
Yes, this resolution will allow our businesses during this difficult time to extend their temporary outdoor patio dining areas until the restrictions are lifted or until December 31st, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on Resolution 2020?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek.
Yes.
Mrs. Adler.
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane.
Yes.
Mrs. Waring.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Resolution 2020 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I have ordinance 2067 to be placed before council for emergency passage tonight.
Okay, will the clerk please assign a number and read the title?
Ordinance 2067, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Development to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for modifications and repairs to doors and the installation of doors and door hardware at the Fairview Park City Hall, the Gemini Center, and Bain Park Cabin as determined by the Board of Control and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to have a motion to suspend the charter provision in Rule 49 requiring 3 reads.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Motion carries. Councilman Minek.
No, me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I move that Rule 53 requiring reference to committee be dispensed with and ordinance 2067 be placed up for final passage.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Motion carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2067, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2067?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
No.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2067 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I have an ordinance to be placed before council for emergency passage.
Will the clerk please assign a number and read the title?
Ordinance 2068, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Construction Resources Incorporated for consulting services for modifications and repairs to doors and the installation of doors and door hardware at Fairview Park City Hall, the Gemini Center, and Bain Park Cabin, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the charter provision in Rule 49 requiring that the ordinance be read at 3 separate meetings be suspended and that it be placed before council for emergency passage.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call roll on the motion.
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Motion carries. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I move that Rule 53 requiring reference to committee be dispensed with and ordinance 2068 be placed up for final passage.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Motion carried. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2068, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2068?
Mr. Summerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
No.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
The ordinance 2068 passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2057 before council for emergency passage tonight.
okay, will the clerk please read the title?
Okay, ordinance 2057, originated by Greg Single, Finance Director, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to transfer funds to the specified account and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I move that Charter Provision and Rule 49 requiring that ordinance 2057 be read at 3 separate meetings be suspended and that it be placed before council for emergency passage.
so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
The motion carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2057, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2057?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2057 passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I have ordinance 2062 to be placed before council for emergency passage tonight.
okay, will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2062, requested by Mayor Patrick Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Fairview Park, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Local 2681, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I move that Rule 50, no. Yes, I move that Rule 50,
49.
You want the charter?
49, sorry. I move that Charter Provision in Rule 49 requiring that ordinance 2062 be read at 3 separate meetings be suspended with and that it be placed before council for emergency passage.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
The motion carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2062, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2062?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
The ordinance 2062 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I have ordinance 2063 to be placed before council for emergency passage.
Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2063, requested by Mayor Patrick Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Fairview Park, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the charter provision and Rule 49 requiring that ordinance 2063 be read at 3 separate meetings be suspended and that it be placed before council for emergency passage.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
The motion carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2063, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2063?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2063 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I have ordinance 2064 to be placed before council for emergency passage.
Okay, will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2064, requested by Mayor Patrick Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor, oh shoot, hold on 1 minute. I have the wrong intro for this. An ordinance establishing the salary ranges for various offices and positions of the municipal government, repealing all other ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I move that the charter provision and Rule 49 requiring that ordinance 2064 be read at 3 separate meetings be suspended and that it be placed before council for emergency passage.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Motion carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2063, is there any further discussion? I'm sorry, 2064. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2064?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
The ordinance 2064 passes. We will now have legislation for third and final passage, third reading and final passage. Councilwoman Waring.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to place ordinance 2045 up for third reading and final passage.
Okay, would the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2045, requested by Council President Kilbane, sponsored by Councilwoman Waring. An ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as part of the various component codes of the codified ordinances of Fairview Park, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2045, is there any discussion?
Council President?
Councilwoman Waring,
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2045 to change the date from 10/28/20 to 12/31/20 in section 1.
so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of the motion to amend?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
And the motion carries. Ordinance 2045 is amended. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2045 amended, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2045 amended?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2045 amended passes. Councilwoman Waring,
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to place ordinance 2050 up for third reading and final passage.
the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2050, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman Waring. An ordinance setting the membership user fee schedule for the Fairview Park Recreation and Community Center, Gemini Center, for the year 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, prior to passage of ordinance 2050, is there any discussion? Please call roll on passage of ordinance 2050.
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2050 passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2051 up for third reading and final passage.
and would you please read the title?
Ordinance 2051, requested by Greg Single, Finance Director, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance appropriating funds, current expenses, and other expenditures of the city of Fairview Park, Ohio, for the period commencing January 1st, 2020, and ending December 31st, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, prior to call for roll for passage of ordinance 2051, is there any discussion?
Council President,
Councilwoman King,
I would like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2051 to replace Exhibit A, which was updated in our committee meeting.
so moved. Do I have a second? Is
Second.
there any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk please call roll on the motion to amend.
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Ordinance 2051 is amended. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2051 amended, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2051 amended?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
yes,
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2051 amended passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2052 up for third reading and final passage.
will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2052, originated by Greg Single, Finance Director, requested by Mayor Patrick Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance appropriating funds for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Fairview Park, Ohio, for the period commencing January 1st, 2021, and ending March 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, prior to call for passage of ordinance 2052, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2052.
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
yes,
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2052 passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2053 up for third read and final passage.
will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2053, requested by Mayor Patrick Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King, co-sponsored by Councilwoman Waring. An ordinance amending section 143.23B entitled Vacation Leave of chapter 143 entitled Employment Provisions of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Fairview Park and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2053, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll passage of ordinance 2053?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
yes,
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2053 passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2054 up for third read and final passage.
will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2054, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King, co-sponsored by Councilwoman Waring. An ordinance amending section 143.30 entitled Payment Upon Separation of chapter 143 entitled Employment Provisions of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Fairview Park and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Okay, prior to call for passage of ordinance 2054, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2054?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
yes,
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2054 passes. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2055 up for third read and final passage.
will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2055. Requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Brewer Garrett Company to provide preventative maintenance services for the pool pack rooftop mechanical units and associated equipment servicing the Gemini Center Leisure Pool and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2055, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2055?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek.
Yes.
Mrs. Adler.
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane.
Yes.
Mrs. Waring.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
2055 passes. Councilwoman King?
Thank you, Council President. Finally, tonight, I'd like to place Resolution 2018 up for third read and final passage.
Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution 2018, requested by Greg Single, Finance Director, sponsored by Councilwoman King. A resolution requesting the county fiscal officer to advance taxes from the proceeds of tax levies pursuant to section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of resolution 2018, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of resolution 2018?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minek.
Yes.
Mrs. Adler.
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane.
Yes.
Mrs. Waring.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Resolution 2018 passes. That will conclude our long legislative agenda for this evening. Thanks to our chair people and our clerk. Good job, all of you. All right, we'll now have reports and communications from the mayor and his directors. Mayor Cooney, if you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to let everyone know that the senior center, while it is closed, it is still in operation virtually, as well as providing van rides to our residents. Can everybody hear me? I know we've had trouble in the past. Okay, great, thank you. And we're looking, the staff there at the senior center is looking to add some new classes starting in January. So we ask people to check in with the senior center for some new adventures in the new year. The Gemini Center will be, its holiday hours are that it will be closing at 1 o'clock on both Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and it will be closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So you'll have to wait till January 2nd to start your resolution there. I'd like to thank the staff at the Gemini Center, at the Recreation Department, for all the wonderful programs that they put in place this season. We had virtual visits at the North Pole with Santa. We also had a virtual reading of the Polar Express. There was a cookies contest, or I'm sorry, cookies. People could pick up cookies and design them. And then lastly, something that obviously many people in the city took to heart, to light up the neighborhoods. It's just been a wonderful display. I've seen countless people walking, driving with their friends, their families throughout the city. And I really would like to thank the staff for that idea, as well as the residents for taking it to heart. I can see we have two of our two of our most prominent displayers there, Mr. and Mrs. Vicker on Seabury. I've heard from a lot of people how wonderful it is, and really like to thank everybody for getting in the holiday spirit there. The Mastic Road Hill is supposed to open this week. We have not heard anything official as to when that is, but it is to be this. We're told it's going to be this week. There'll be some temporary closures in the spring due to the fact that some of the work there that needs to be done cannot be done with the temperatures where they're at now. Probably be late April, early May, when temperatures are consistently above 50 degrees. We've met with the contractors in the county as well as Metro Parks, and it's the consensus that it's better just to close the hill for those items to be completed. It's safer for the workers, safer for anybody using that route, as well as it should allow for the work to get done quicker. I would like to thank our payroll clerk, Carlene Hayes, for all the work that she has done to see that the retroactive checks will be made available to our employees. It's not an easy task, and Carlene, spent some extra time throughout the weekend, making sure that was done. And I'd like to thank council for its consideration in passing that legislation on 2 reads today. Finally, I would really just like to thank our residents, and I'm not going to name everybody because there's a lot of people, and I know I'll probably forget some of the folks, but we've received a lot of generous gifts here at the city. There was a couple who called the senior center, and they had wanted to donate a gift card. I think it was how the call came across, and it turned out it was $500 in gift cards, $25 gift cards at Giant Eagle. So 20 of our seniors will be getting those cards to help them through the holidays. We've had a number of local businesses be supportive of the police department's Shop with a Cop program. Other businesses and residents also supportive of that, and other ventures here in the city. So a lot of it is anonymous. A lot of people just call and drop things off, and they just really want to help their neighbors and help people at this time of year, but also knowing that the struggles that a lot of people have had throughout the year. So I really want to thank, and again, we just get these calls, we get these letters just out of the blue, and it's wonderful to see the care and the concern and the generosity that our residents, our businesses have for our city. So thank you to all of you out there for that. Finally, I'd like to, and speaking of which, Meals on Wheels, I was down there today talking to the folks down there, and they have had so many things donated that they need to leave some of the items in the hallway, and they just wanted to make sure that that was okay until they get things settled. So again, just things big and small from all sorts of people that really make a difference in our community. So thank you. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, a safe and healthy Happy New Year. Have a safe and happy holidays, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Director of Public Service and Development, Costello.
Thank you, President Kilbane. Our city service crews are finishing leaf collection, battling some weather issues, but soldiering through. I really appreciate those efforts. As soon as they wrap up leaf collection, which they anticipate to do tomorrow, they'll be installing snow plowing stakes, which are the poles, they're posts that you're used to seeing that help protect the curbs and tree lawns from plow damage. I'd also like to announce that our household hazardous waste collection from September 19th yielded 8,718 tons of household waste. And I want to thank our residents. That's a lot of waste that we didn't have to landfill and we didn't have to pay to be put in the landfill. We had a lot of volunteers again to echo what Mayor Cooney said. We have wonderful people that volunteered their time to help us and really hardworking employees that made that day a big success. We talked a little bit about the Dominion West 220th project. I just wanted to mention that's going to be going on through January, and much like the Mastic Road Hill, they'll be coming back in the spring for permanent concrete repairs as the weather allows. And thank you. That concludes my report for tonight. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Finance Director Singal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The administration appreciates council's consideration and passage of the items on tonight's agenda. And I too would like to wish all the residents of Fairview Park a very Merry Christmas and happy, healthy, and prosperous 2021. And that concludes my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Singal. Law Director Riley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing tonight except Merry Christmas to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. City Engineer Kerber.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to report tonight that we received our stage 3 comments from ODOT for the West 210th project. So we are preparing the final plan for transmittal to ODOT early January 2021. And I would also like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and see you in 2021. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Engineer Kerber. Okay, so it's now our public session. Clerk Westbrooks, do we have anyone online who would like to speak during public session, or do we have any emails that need to be read?
No, I do not see. I got a request from Deb Hammerly, but I do not see her on. But I will read her email that she sent with her comments. It says, Hi Liz, Ray and I plan on attending via Zoom the next city council meeting on 12/21/20. I have the proposed comments / questions I would like to pose during the open public session. Number one, in reference to my letter, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You read Debbie's address.
Oh, I don't think she put it in here. Oh wait, hold on, let me see. Oh yes, 22326 Haber Drive, Deborah Hammerly.
Thank you.
It says, hi Liz, Ray and I plan on attending via Zoom the next city council meeting on 12/21/20. I have these proposed comments / questions I would like to pose during the open public session. Number one, in reference to my letter of 12/9/20 to Council President, I would like Council President to explain why the public was not permitted to speak, quote unquote, ask questions during the open public session of the prior council meeting of 12/7/20. Notwithstanding the virtual nature of the proceedings. Number two, I may ask a question regarding a certain piece of pending legislation that is not up for passage. Number three, Ray may share his closing remarks. Thanks, Liz, for all you do for our city. Deborah Hammerly.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
All right. The question posed to me, I'll answer Mrs. Hammerly directly. Thanks, Liz. Okay, we will now have miscellaneous business and comments from members of council. Councilman Simmerly.
Thanks, Council President. Tonight I just wanted to thank Aaron Gilbride, who organized again this year another food drive for the West Valley neighborhood for the Fairview Park Hunger Center. So thanks again for your efforts with that. I know there's a lot of people that participated and a lot of donations that were made. And then two, I just wanted to, like everyone else, wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and see everyone next year. That's all I had tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman Minek.
Thank you, Council President. At this time, I move to remove ordinance 2038, the rezoning of permanent parcel number 321-29-027 from general business A GBA to general business B GBB for further consideration of the Environment, Public Planning, Zoning Development Committee of Council.
So moved. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the motion to remove ordinance 2038 from further consideration?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minek,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Motion carries. The ordinance is removed from further consideration. Councilman Minnick, anything else?
Thank you. I just have a comment reference to that ordinance. I would just like to express my sincere thanks to our clerk, Liz Westbrook, for all her work since day one, setting up the schedule to comply with the charter, organizing meetings, receiving, replying, and speaking about the hundreds of emails, communicating with other entities, compiling all documents for presentation, etc. And a big thank you to the hundreds of residents who expressed their concerns pertaining to the rezoning issue. From our family to your family, Merry Christmas and a safe and healthy 2021. This completes my report. Thank you.
Councilwoman Adler?
I basically want to take this time, really, as we come to a close in our first year together. I can't say anything but positive things about the amazing job that our mayor, his staff, all the city workers, city council, clerk Westbrook, really in this year, as we say, hindsight is 2020. I can say we've learned much from 2020 and can't wait to put it behind us. But one thing I have learned is this is a outstanding group of people, and Mayor Cooney, your leadership has shown nothing but support, trust, compassion, and hope for the city of Fairview Park through truly a memorable year. So I thank all of you for everything you have done, and it shows what kind of character Fairview Park has in the people that have come forward to help serve our city and the many residents of this city. So thank you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Waring?
Thank you, Council President. So I would say something poignant about 2020 and how amazing it has been. I do believe Councilwoman Adler just took all of the thunder from me, as I wanted to compliment this council and the administration and the city workers and everybody who has really adapted and still managed to function this year. Same with our residents. They have been very open to change and understanding when COVID has affected the services in the city. So I really appreciate that. That being said, I am really looking forward to the holidays, into the new year, and I'm wishing all of our residents a happy holidays, a happy new year, and that may 2021 bring much better things than 2020 brought. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Waring. Councilwoman King?
Thank you, Council President. I would like to present a certificate of appreciation to Bill and Diane McVicker, also known as Fairview Park's Mr. and Mrs. Kringle. Thank you for taking a little time out tonight from the elf tent to hear this. Your Christmas light display has grown from your home to your street of Seabury Avenue to the city of Fairview Park and has brought a sense of community for years. Not only are you helping to spread joy and the spirit of the holiday season, especially during these uncertain times, but you are also collecting donations for the Fairview Park Hunger Center. Last year, the donations were over $1,000, and you are on track to surpass that amount this year. Hot chocolate, reindeer food, candy canes, and lights create a magic that goes with the season and delights kids of all ages. Thank you for sharing your enthusiasm for the season with us and for helping us to make Fairview Park a great place to grow. We walked down the street last night and there were people everywhere, and it was just, there's a magic to the street and it's wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Bridget.
Bridget.
We've seen the same kind of generosity from people this year. It's just, you know, the Hunger Center, we've had a lot of donations, and it's just such a nice thing to see everyone with so much joy in their hearts finally this year, right? And so, yeah.
Yes, just to add real quick to that, to what you said there, Bridget, about doing better than last year, and to kind of play off of Mayor Cooney's comments earlier. We were updating numbers last night after the weekend was over as far as being out there and collecting. We'll double what we did last year without a problem to the Hunger Center. And we've got probably a good 100 pounds worth of product too that people have dropped off.
Yeah.
So it's really fun, and it's rewarding and kind of amazing too what it's turned into.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much too
Appreciate
for the honor.
acknowledgement. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. McVicker, for a wonderful tradition.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mayor.
Thank you.
And I just would like to wish everyone in the community a very happy holiday and a healthy 2021. And please mask up. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman King, and thank you to the McVickers. Councilman Berger.
Yeah, just want to extend a special appreciation and thanks for all the residents who reached out pertaining to the rezoning issue. I think it was pretty amazing about how the community really came together. Everyone, was very active in that, and that was my 10-month-old screaming. So sorry about that. And then, yeah, just happy holidays to everybody. And the McVickers, my son and my wife, we have a Christmas Eve Seabury walk planned. So maybe we'll see you there. But otherwise, happy holidays and thanks for the great first year, everyone.
Thank you, Councilman Berger. Okay, so there won't be a committee meeting next week. Our first regular council meeting of 2021 will be Monday, January 4th, and there will be a special committee meeting prior. And I would just like to wish all of you on council and the administration and all of our residents happy holidays and a happy, brighter 2021. Okay, so nothing else to come before this council this evening. The chair will now move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk please call roll?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yeah.
Mr. Minek.
Yes.
Mrs. Adler.
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane.
Yes.
Mrs. Waring.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Okay, council is adjourned. Good night, everyone. Happy holidays.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Take care, everyone. Be
Happy
safe.
holidays.